And I'm live. That is cool. Today is 5th of December 2025, Friday, and let's just begin errand of code. First of all, yes, like not always, but in this series, we have to see what the language is for today. There are only 8 languages remaining, right? And there are also 8 days of advent of code remaining, and there are 21 minutes for the question of the day to appear. Let's see what the language we get today. And yes, like always, we like not always, like for the fifth time, we will spin this thing 3 times. And whatever the language is on the third spin will be the one that we go forward with for today. Okay, first spin. OCaml. This would have been preferable because OCaml is stranger than other languages, but second spin. OCaml. Okay, if the third spin also ends upon OCaml, that would be cool. Okay, third spin, the last spin, and the language that we are going with. OCaml. Okay, that is very good. That is very good because I really would not have wanted to get OCaml for a dynamic programming question or a question which is more difficult. OCaml is good. Okay, so today we will go with OCaml. Hello, always a newbie. You have been here before with a horse. That is nice. What the hell? Shit, that is crazy. OCaml. Shit. OCaml. We'll go with OCaml. At least the spelling that I wrote was correct. Not CAMEL. It is CAML somehow. Okay. Install. Oh, and this is how OCaml looks like. And why there hashtags. Huh. And we usually we have a symbol and then the comment, and the code is without the symbol, but here it seems to be kind of like the opposite way. We have hash and then the thing that should run, and the comments are without any hash or anything. Crazy. Okay, install OCaml. How do we do that? On Linux, macOS, BSD. What is the name of the package? OCaml. I think we can just do brew is the package manager for Mac. OCaml. This is going to be difficult. This is like actually going to be difficult because OCaml is difficult. And I guess nothing was found. Okay, OCaml was found, and we are downloading bottle OCaml. Hello, how's everything going on? We are doing OCaml right here. OPAM, okay. Uh, what even is OCaml? If you need a more explicit instructions, nah. Install the OPAM package manager. Okay, OPAM is the package manager for OCaml. It seems initialize OPAM, activate OPAM switch. I think we should go to ChatGPT. Install about OCaml. What do you mean about? Get started. Installing cool. A tour of, okay, that is a long tour. That is a very long tour for a simple add-on of code question. We will not go through that. The first OCaml. No. We can take like read this and like skim this, not read this. Expressions and definitions. That is strange. Everything has a value and every value has a type. I think this is going to be difficult. Yes, this is going to be difficult. Okay. In OCaml, everything has a value and every value has a type. And let me also just, I've done Haskell in university. OCaml seems slightly more normal than Haskell. Okay, shit. I guess then we are in safe waters. But shit, I can change the title here. And this will say day 5, you know, in O. Camel, YouTuber thing, analytics. Okay, let's just start with simple expression, and everything has a value in OCaml and every value has a type. The above expression says 50 into 50 is an expression that has a type int and evaluates to 2500. Since it is anonymous expression, the character this appears instead of a name. Okay, and comments start with this and start with this and end with this. What is the hashtag about? This tutorial introduces OCaml's basics, values, expression lists, functions, patterns, matching, and more. Okay, now there are two schools of thought here. We could either go through with this, which should be the way if we were actually understanding how OCaml works and everything, but we just want to solve a simple question, simple advent of good question, in which case chat GPT would be better, and we won't say here is the question, solve this in OCaml. We will have a more structured approach than that, a more better approach, a more better, yes. uh, how to run a OCaml program. Exactly correct spelling. To run a OCaml program, you have basically got three straightforward paths depending on whether you want quick execution, compile binaries, or module-based projects. Run a single OCaml file, quickly interpret it. Mode OCaml.ml, okay, is the extension. What is happening? The OCaml top level interpreter runs your code, no type checking ahead of time, no executable generated, great for quick tests. Okay, that is what we will do, I guess. And OCaml OPT is another program. Then we can pass in the name of the program and the file that we want to compile and output as program and then run the program. Why use this thing? Yes, produces a fast native executable, uses Lambda, not Lambda optimizations if enabled, or compiled to bytecode is crazy. OCaml C and OCaml OPT. We can using Dune. What the hell? Dune. We can use Dune. Uh, OPAM is the OCaml package manager. Dune is cool. Dune is cool. What do we use Dune for? Frank Herbert. If you are doing anything more than one single file use Dune. It handles compiling, linking, dependencies, file structure, and everything. Okay, we don't want that. We just want to run a single file. So this is what we'll do. Okay, we know how to run our OCaml program using OCaml function. Speaking of Haskell, the name Nam Bengaluru app is open source and written in Haskell. Namma Bengaluru. Hmm. Namma Bengaluru. Why is Bengaluru called Namma? Should Bengaluru is called Namma. Namma Bengaluru, when translated from Kannada, means R Bangalore. Ah, okay. R Bangalore. Bangalore. It's a phrase brimming with a sense of belonging, affection, and pride, capturing the unique charm of Bangalore, the capital city of the state of Karnataka in India. Namma meaning R. So R Namma Bangalore. That I can speak Kannada now. That is cool. Almost there. Okay. How to how to write a simple hello world in OCaml? I think that is a good enough question. Print end line without curly braces. Okay, that is the entire program. No main program. Okay, then execute this, or we can compile to bytecode or whatever. We could use Dune for our single thing. Hmm. print end line. That is very simple. Okay. And this, the fact that we are not using any parentheses is like Lua. In Lua also we don't use parentheses when our function is being called with a single argument. So yeah, that seems to be similar here. And okay, now to variables in OCaml. How can we define variables in OCaml? Immutable Rust. OCaml keeps things tight and disciplined, so variables work differently from what you might be used to in languages like Python, JavaScript. Let's walk through it cleanly. Immutable bindings, syntax, let name equals this. In OCaml, you don't assign variables, you bind values. You bind names to values, which is very similar to Rust. And when did OCaml came out? 2000, 1996. So this is older than Rust. So Rust took this concept from OCaml. Okay, integer or a string, these cannot be changed later. Once you bind a name, it stays linked to that value. Think of it as labeling a box that you are not allowed to reopen. And optional, define a variable with a type integer, string. OCaml will complain loudly if you lie. Shadowing, OCaml's version of mutation. Shadowing, mutation. You redefine the name for something else. That is cool. That is just like Rust, and I like this thing. This is very beautiful. This is literally very beautiful. Actual mutable thing. If you really want mutation, OCaml makes you say it explicitly, so you cannot pretend everything is pure. Let counter equals ref 0. It references 0. Read, what is this? And to read the counter, we use this thing, exclamation mark before the name of the variable. And to reassign, or not reassign, to write a value, to change the value or update the value of our variable, we use the walrus operator. Let's go. And here we get the current value, add one to it, update the value, and here we said ref somehow due to some reason. Mutable fields inside records, we can have type point. Point is a type where x is an integer of type mutable, and y is a type of integer which is also mutable. And here we say that p is of type this, where we didn't specify, or it was like inferred that p is a point. Okay, where x is 0, y is 0, and then we can say go to px and give it the value 10, go to py and give it the value 20 or something. Okay, let add ab equals this. Local variables in functions, this is how we are defining our function. Sum is a local variable inside this function add, which takes in two parameters a and b, and we are making sum equals a plus b in sum. Okay, let's just stay kind of here. Let name equals value, mutable by default. Let this shadowing. Should we use shadowing? Let's use with actual mutability instead of shadowing, even though shadowing is cool. Namayatri. Okay, shit. R Yatri. Shit, yeah, Namayatri is a thing. But there is like, uh, let's go. Shit, that is like Uber for auto or also for car. That's cool. R driver or something. OCaml version. OCaml. Language OCaml cd OCaml hello.ml hello.ml and tree sitter for OCaml is being downloaded. That is cool. And let's say help help lsp info lsp info no lsp config, I think. My bad. lsp config all OCaml lsp, which we download from this place. How do we download this lsp? OPAM, we have to download this using OPAM. I think this will download the lsp globally. Do I have OPAM? I do not have OPAM. Install OPAM. Installing OPAM. Okay. And install. First, we have to do OPAM init. Okay, so it's HTTP processing default. Wait. Okay. Okay. Do you want OPAM to configure? No. Why would I want this? And then yes, but don't set up any hooks. You will have to run eval this whenever you change your current OPAM switch. Select a different shell, specify another. Okay, you can change it. Switch invariant processing stuff is happening. Why does OPAM need this much configuration and stuff? It is just a package manager. Whatever. OPAM is being uh, run. And then we will install this. Easy OPAM to install the language server and the current used OPAM switch. Okay, there is a different concept here which is called switch or something in OPAM, and this must be like kind of like, I don't know, must is not a word I should use. This could be something like Python virtual environment. Okay, shit. It was asking me something. It is processing. Wait, is it processing? It is processing, I guess. OPAM install OCaml LSP server. Okay. Okay. And yes, we will do this. We will do this. We will write the whole code. CD make install, or we could install the language server from source, which is another option. I guess we should do that. This is already some way down the line. Okay. Uh, 1200, 1200, 160, 1360, 1360, 1450, 1462. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Git clone recursive modules. Recursive modules. Yes. Make install. I guess. Yeah. Make install and make install tune build and install and dune install dune command not found. I think that will not happen, or that might happen. It is happening. If I do make install now, we do not have Dune, it seems like. Okay, let OCaml do its stuff here. Okay. And now OCaml install OCaml language server. Package not found. OCaml language server. OCaml LSP server. LSP server. OPAM install OCaml LSP server, and we might OPAM might install the thing. Yes, install them. Stuff is being retrieved. That is cool. Okay. And yeah, once this is done, we can just enable the OCaml LSP from Vim thing, Vim LSP, and then we'll just go back to this. And the question is about to be live. 30 seconds. Let's go. Almost there. This is not almost there. This is 24 out of 84. Yep. We can do the countdown, but that is not very good. Let's go. 5. And we won't be able to solve this, I guess, in the next 1 hour, but we'll see. The question is not very long, and shit, this is going to be difficult. Look at this input. When the input is like this, like one type of input at the top and then another type of input at the bottom, you need some data structure work to work this out. Yep. There is a lot of input here, and 72 almost there. 72 is something. Wait, this is building the thing using Dune. That is crazy. Dune is like, I think, npm. Dune is like not Rust. See, cargo. Dune is like cargo here in Rust. Okay, we do have the LSP. Wait, cd dot config, and then git status, git, and all the current files, and tailwind colorizer, go boilerplate, vim tech. I added vim tech, git, and git commit message, added lsps and some plugins, git origin main, and cool, and language cd o camel n help lsp config all OCaml, and OPAM install OCaml LSP. Cool. Vim dot LSP dot enable OCaml LSP. Shit, is it like there twice? Help LSP config all OCaml. Yes, L is in the name twice. Hello dot ml. Right. LSP is not running. LSP is not running. LSP is not running. Okay, LSP is not running. LSP is not running. hello.ml and let's see, info. It might run in a little while. I don't know, maybe. OCaml LSP is not executable. Configuration will not be used. OCaml LSP is not executable. LSP help LSP config all OCaml. We can install the LSP using this, and then we can run the LSP by saying that the command is this. But where did OPAM install this thing? That is a good question. Can we have the answer? To update the current shell environment, run this thing. Okay. Eval opam env. Eval opam env. And OCaml LSP. Yes, let's go. Let's go. OCaml LSP is working. OCaml unable to find format manually. Types on hover may not be well formatted. You need to install either OCaml format version this or otherwise. LSP info, and we have the LSP running. That is cool. Print end line and hello there. And okay, we don't need to add semicolon. It seems to be optional. OCaml, OCaml and hello.ml. It does run. That is cool. And one more thing that I would like to add is add a remap, key map, which will run OCaml, CML, let's say. CML, don't use Dart, use OCaml, run the current OCaml file. And if I go here and if I press space, shit, if I press space CML, the program runs on this split window. That is cool. Okay, and we can also have variables using let x, which is an integer, equals a reference value 0. Okay, and then we can later say for writing this equals read the value of x and plus 1. Hmm. Unbound value x, unbound value x. Morning 10, this expression should have type unit, uh, unbound value x, and OCaml LSP says unbound value x. This expression has type uint, but an expression was expected of type int. Okay, we can say this unbound construction, unbound type constructor uint. Yes, yes. OCaml, OCaml. This is OCaml. This was working just fine here. This is shadowing. This is shadowing using ref counter equals this thing, and then we should be able to do this, but we are unable to do this somehow. We cannot even change a variable's value. I guess we will have to go with shadowing in that case. Let's say x equals 5, and then let x equals x plus 5. Syntax error. Uh, shadowing was working just right here. New X, old one is hidden. OCaml's version of mutation. Format is string in OCaml. Module format like this. Let formatted string equals this, or printf dot printf is something we can use. S. This is crazy. The way that we are passing in arguments to our function is actually crazy, and the fact that we are using double semicolons at the end is crazier. Okay, there was error because you were using a semicolon. Somehow there was error because of the semicolon. Okay. Yep. Here also we do not see any semicolons. Okay, so a semicolon means something in OCaml. So if we were to say ref and here uh, this hmm, it counter equals ref 0 counter to read. Okay, this should have worked. Uh, we'll use shadow. And let's print this thing. Printf dot printf. First argument is our number is person d new line, and the second argument is x. If it works, and it does work. Okay, and it looks like semicolons have some internal meaning in OCaml. What do semicolons mean in OCaml? Semicolons in OCaml look innocent, but they have a very specific and limited job. They are not like C, Java semicolons that end every statement. OCaml uses them only when you deliberately want to run multiple expressions in a sequence. Okay, usually for their side effects. Let's break it down. Semicolon, do this, then do that. First expression, uh, okay, evaluate expression 1, evaluate expression 2. OCaml evaluates expression 1, throws away its value, and then evaluates expression 2 and returns that value. Shit. Okay, example, this thing prints first, second. The value of the whole thing is the value of the last expression. By whole thing, they mean, in this case, the whole program. They are for imperative code. Pure code doesn't need semicolons. You see semicolons mostly when you are dealing with printing, mutation, loops, IO, side effects, functions you call just to do something. Okay, so shit, that is crazy. This is crazy. Okay, this is crazy. Here we can say we can make a sub expression or something, and here we can say print new line. Hello, X is being assigned a value here and a semicolon and then 5. Or maybe I messed up. Yes, I think I did mess up. Shit, I did mess up. Uh, this constant has type string new line. What is the problem? Print this. end line. There you go. Syntax. Yeah. So here, uh, this whole expression evaluates to the last thing after the semicolon, which is exactly the same thing that happens in Rust. So this is cool. And if we were to run this, hello, x is being assigned a value here, and then x gets the value 5. That is cool. The output of this expression, or is x starts pointing to the output of this expression, which is the number 5. Okay. Warning, then this expression should have type uint. Double is not the same. Okay, single semicolon means evaluate this thing, then the second thing, then semicolon between the semicolons. Okay, double, this is common early confusion. This is not OCaml syntax. It is a directive for the OCaml REPL or utop, meaning end of my input, evaluate now. In real OCaml file, we never use hello.ml and we have double semicolons. This is crazy. Okay, semicolon versus let dash in. I guess we don't have to worry about this thing. We can just remove this and instead we can use this. A frequent beginner question is let x equals 10 print line hi and then x plus 2. What does this mean? This is not doing what C, JS devs expect. This actually parses as let x equals 10 in print and line. Important, the semicolon has lower precedence than let in. Semicolon has lower precedence than let in. Okay, so it will be executed later. Lists use semicolon too, but differently, like this. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, but we kind of can have variables in X in OCaml using shadowing. Okay, we can have variables in OCaml using shadowing. That is nice. Using shadowing, we can have variables. So that thing checks out. Now we need to see how to write loops in OCaml. We write loops, for loop, while loop, while condition, do this and then done. Example, let counter ref to in is something that we use in this thing. Read the value of counter while it is smaller than 3. Do this thing, then increment the value of the counter. We can do this. Wait, does semicolon also decide the scope of the variable? Maybe. While, let's say, ref while read x, this thing is smaller than 11, do, and then print end line or printf dot printf uh, value percent d new line x read x. That does not work out because we also have to update the value of x at read x plus one. Okay, right. And let's say we start x with 1. Camel 1 to 10. This in syntax is crazy. Otherwise, this thing is cool. First, we have to evaluate this. Then we update the value of x and we do our stuff. Okay, what does in mean? Want in thing no. Camel mean what is it? The in thing. Let in. Yes. Let this thing in something. Expression using the name. Okay. Expression using the name outside a file module, plain. So wait, if I were to say let y equals some number 5 and here x is pointing to this, okay, errors, the value I has type int ref button expression of type int. The one is u int there. If we remove y, we cannot get access of y on this line, but we can say that we want x there. Okay. Constant 11 has type int, but an expression was expected of type int reference. Shit, okay, cool. Y is an integer and x is a reference to that integer. And if we were to remove this, yes, as expected, there is error because we cannot be using y here without saying in. Okay, that is a strange thing to do. You can only use a variable later if you have this in line before using the expression, before using the variable in your expression. Everything after in is one big expression. Okay, this can span multiple lines. This in will make x available in all the lines after that, it seems. Okay, local variables. So shit, usually also this happens when we define some x equals something, that x is available to all the expressions after the declaration of x, but here we have to explicitly say make x available to everything afterwards. But why do we have to do that if we didn't, like, why is this thing optional? Is this is the should be the default behavior, make x available to everything after that. This is how OCaml simulates local variables. Local variables, okay. Mhm. These two exist only in the right hand part. Okay, let in is an expression, not a statement. Why not use semicolon here? This is actually parsed as this thing because this has more a lower precedence, so this thing will be treated as one thing, and then here we do not have an x available. This is wrong, but this is cool. Okay, it's deeper philosophy here. Okay, philosophy, yes, we can do philosophy. Quick menu model. Okay, let something in. Okay, okay. We also know how to write a loop, kind of. We also know how to write a loop. And now how to write an array in OCaml and how do we add and remove elements from the array. What is this is OCaml, are you trying? Yep. Wait. Shit. Oh shit. This should not have happened, but shit, my bad. I can actually fix this. Recap, sorry, yep. Just no, not system. Okay, I can fix this on stream. Maybe no. Let me hide my screen and then I will fix it. Screen is now not visible. This happens. Yes, I figured it out. This happens because I do not have a lot of storage on my device. And somehow OBS stores the things which are being recorded somehow, and therefore OBS requires storage. And if the storage runs out, then OBS and the screen gets stuck. That is just something that happens. And I will have to delete some things, which I can delete. Shit. Uh, okay, there is Arch bootable drive in here, and also the screen is not visible. Just 1 minute. Now, just one more minute. And yep, cool. This is well. Screen. Bro, all the comments before you solve it. Yes, my bad. Delete all the code as it is already on GitHub. I have not done anything. Like, this is what I wrote. I haven't done, like, even read the advent of code question yet. We never delete all codes as it is already on GitHub. Yes, we do never use. Code is not taking a lot of storage. Code is just text. At maximum, it is a few MBs. And yes, I like deleted the uh, CF code. Yes, CF code was there were quite a bit of CF code. I deleted all of that. Okay, cool. Now we need to see how do we write an array. We will be needing array. And I think before reading the question, I think we might also need something like maps. Let's see. How to write a array in OCaml. Arrays in OCaml are simple, flexible. Simple, let's go. That is alien language. Arrays versus lists. Immutable. Okay, we would need some arrays, I guess. Syntax. What is the syntax? Okay, that is crazy. Assigning values. Creating arrays with a size. 5 elements, all of them equal to 0. Creating arrays with a function. 5. And run this function where I think would be the index. Yes, I is the index. Iterating over arrays for this I equals 0 to array length air -1. Okay, air gets the value of array length and we are doing -1 to that, I think. And then do this, print all the values, functional, multi-dimensional arrays. Arrays are fixed. You cannot append or remove elements. If you need dynamic resizing, use a list or buffer. Wait, you said that immutable. Lists are immutable. Let's make a simple array and then we will print that array. Let air equals this thing, these two things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Print this. Unused, it is unused. That is completely fine. And for I equals 0 to for I equals 0 to array dot length. Shit, I do understand that now. Upload everything on GitHub and format your Mac. Shit. That is one option. But I guess I have movies and mangas installed or downloaded. I cannot put that on GitHub. I don't know. OCaml is low level. I think it is mostly used on for operating systems, if I'm not wrong. Finance, large trading systems, computer science compilers, static analyzer, analysis for formal methods, and web development. We can also use this for web development. I guess, yep, finance and compilers, low level things, computer science, data science. Jane Street uses this, Meta uses this, Bloomberg uses this. Okay, formal methods software is some kind of software. Yeah. The main kind of purpose of using a different language every day for advent of code is just, I don't know, it is fun. Same except syntax, a few features difference with are easier in some languages. Shit, I guess I didn't clean enough storage. My bad. He new to your channel. What type of stuff do you do? And you are interested in new things. And yep, that is the whole introduction. Very nice. And yes, the screen also gets stuck from time to time. And here we are doing this year's Advent of Code with a new language for each day. And we are having fun, I think. I hope. And this is crazy. Look at this. Here, array.length is a function which we are calling on this thing array. So this is how we are passing in arguments. To this function, we pass in this argument and the return value of this thing. From that return value, we are subtracting 1. That is crazy. Array.length, pass in uh, -1, do print f dot printf, and the first argument is going to be value %b, and the second argument is going to be here dot I, and done. Why is this for there? Cool. And this thing is one way of specifying an array, or we could say, I think make, there was a make thing. We could array.make. Array might be a namespace or might be an object which has this method, but more probably it is a namespace. Array.make, make an array of 10 elements and use this function. We can also pass in a function like this. And this is how we define a function. Function takes an I, and this is the body of the function. Let's say uh, fun. Wait, fun? Yes, fun. Fun will take an x, and the body will say x into x into x cubed. Okay, well, let's see. This is an expression. This expression has a type int, but an expression was expected of type int. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, that is string print and line, and yes, print and line array dot type. Type int to int reference. Yes. Value array has type int int reference, but then something of type int was required. This thing, because here we said %d, we want to have it. Maybe the screen. Okay, screen is okay. That's cool. That's cool. Screen is okay. Same for movie one, except for hardly one or two. We never watch it again. Just watch and delete. But there are some loyalty you have to have. You always need to have Godfather Part 1, 2, and 3 on your computer. Like always, even if you are not watching them, you need to have Godfather. All three parts of Godfather and also the manga of Berserk. And like these two things always should be on your system. And maybe the whole Gintama anime should be there. What is your solution for day 3, part 2? Run the loop again and again. Log n algo. I knew it wasn't possible to execute on my machine, but my psychic side wanted to write it in no for no reason. Wait, wasn't possible to execute? Even if we were going each cell by cell on the whole grid, like as many times, like n times, if we were to go through the whole thing, that would work. But how can you write log n algorithm? And I'm supposing here by n, you do not mean by n the single side of what we had was a grid, and this grid is, let's say, n by n. And I don't think by the n that you have written here, you are referring to this n, the side. Because if you are referring to this thing, that means you are just not even going through the whole row, right? I think the whatever algorithm you write, it cannot be better than n square, because n square means you are going through each cell at least one, which is the basic requirement. You need to go through each cell at least once to see what there is. And if you have actually figured out some O of n time algorithm, that is some genius level James Sidious kind of thing. I tried it in Python and it was taking so much RAM. Maybe you didn't write it optimally. Log n square is crazy. So I did a merge intervals solution and then a loop to find n minus start of the final intervals. Are we getting different questions? Shit, stuck. Let me delete some more stuff from my computer. That will be helpful. I might have to delete Godfather. Shit, that is a sin. That is actually a sin. Deleting Godfather. There is 9 GBs now free data, but huh. Delete, delete, delete. Should there is a classic debate, Noam Chomsky versus Michael Foucault somehow here, and how Krebs cycle work is also a 500 MB file video. I think now we might be good. Like actually. Okay, cool. Have you uploaded somewhere? I want to see that code. Yes. Norm. Yes. Norm Chomsky. Noam. Yeah. And somehow he is still alive. Somehow he is like actually still alive. 1928. He is 1 year younger than Stanley Kubrick, and that is crazy. Like, shit. Shit, I messed up. Uh, El Pacino 1940. Okay. He's older, like 22 years older than El Pacino. 12 years older than El Pacino. That is crazy. And now back to this. Array. Array. Init. Okay, we have to use the init function, not make. Makes sense. Camel, and this is working. Cube. We are getting cubes of numbers. Okay. We have a way to store variables. We have a way to store an array. We have a way of looping through variables, and we have a way of initializing an array to some value that we want using a function or either some static value. Now, what we want is a dynamic array. How to get a dynamic array in OCaml. And I hope this screen is not stuck. It is not stuck. Shit. He's very old. Just 2 days after, I got to know him yesterday. What a shit. That is some crazy coincidence. 7, lucky number. And they are also teaching about Noam Chomsky hierarchy in college. That is one place. Uh, Arrays have fixed size. Okay, we might not need dynamic size arrays. We can just have an array with very big size. That will also work. Okay. Now let's see how we can read from a file because we need to take an input for our code for this question. What we do not want to do is copy this whole thing and paste it at the top of our file and make it a variable. That would be a bit like noob thing to do. So I don't think I have to write every time in OCaml here. ChatGPT might be able to infer that we are talking about OCaml. Yes, smart. Standard library input file this thing, and the way of calling functions is crazy. We have space, literal space, and then the arguments. Shit, that is cool. That is like PHP. File get content. That is cool. Let data equals standard library dot file large file end of file input file uh, unbound value input underscore file and then print end line unbound value. What does that mean? Unbound value. Unbound value. Unbound value. Std lib input file. This should have worked. Read a file in OCaml. Hmm. Let this thing e- file name. File name is a type. No, file name is not a type. Let this thing share. Okay, this is a function. This is how. Okay, this will get a little used to. Here we are saying read file to string is a function that takes in a file name, and then this is the body of the function. And in this body, we are saying IC is something. IC is in channel dot open text. We are calling this function with this as the first argument, and this IC value tag will be available for all the things after this thing. And then here, what is this? In channel input all IC, we are giving in IC to input all, which is something in channel dot close IC, close the channel, or this might be like file descriptor, and then return the content, and return the content. So this thing is not a thing. Apparently, input file is not a function. Then input file doesn't seem to be a function. A more concise way would be to do this file name and in channel dot with text open file name and in channel input all. We can do this file name in, then we can call this function concise file name. Okay, okay. Let's first of all make a file text.txt or echo hello world in text.txt and hello.ml and tool here in channel dot open text and dot slash text dot txt and here in channel dot input all. We cannot do this. Apparently, we will have to make a function. We cannot execute this line in place. We cannot replace this function call with this line, and screen has been stuck. My bad. Stuck again. Shit. Shit. My bad. Shit. Thank you. Way to get it. I don't know about. Okay, some other stuff. Kubrick. Shit. Krishna. Okay. And the screen was stuck. My bad for that. We can write a function like this, which will read the file and give us the file contents. Okay. We'll say let read file taken file name, and the body of the function is this thing in channel in channel dot open in text format this file name with in channel dot input all, but that does not work in with open text. My bad. With open text now it works, and I think we can even write this in place. Let data equals in channel dot with open text file name is dot slash text dot txt, that is our file name, and in channel dot input all, and make this thing available later on here, print with an endline data. Hmm. Hmm. In syntax error. Hmm. Hmm. We can even remove this. Hello world, let's go. We are able to read the file, and we are getting the contents of the file as a string. That is good. I think we have enough sufficient information to move forward. We know how to create variables, we know how to write arrays and loops, and we can get text from a file. I think they are like pretty much all that we need for advent of code for today. P5, that's part one dot ml and text dot txt, and text dot txt. There is some update in lazy and shit. Don't tell me the screen just got stuck. Right timing. That is cool. Yeah, there might be some other issue. I will have to fix it, but after the stream, I will just check again and again. For now, this is the input. Peace, cool, and part one dot ml. Here we are. First of all, we will get the data. Let data equals in channel file name is dot slash text dot txt. So that is not how we do this. Dot with open text in channel dot input all, and let's say print data or print inline data, and yes, we are able to print the data. That is cool. That is cool. Shit. Okay, that is like a bit too much. Now that is a bit too much. Screen was stuck again. I think it is not a space problem. There might be some issue in the OBS, like you said before, because of some updates. Yes, earlier it was updates in OBS, and right now, let me IRL in real time check for updates. OBS is up to date, but the operating system is not up to date. And yeah, the operating system is not up to date, and I was updating it before the stream, but it would have taken 30 more minutes, and I didn't want to spend 30 more minutes. So that might wait. But now let's solve the question. Cool. And yes, for now, I'll just keep checking if the screen is stuck. It is not stuck right now, at least. As the forklifts break through the wall, the elves are delighted to discover that there was a cafeteria on the other side of after all. Okay. You can hear a commotion coming from the kitchen. At this rate, we won't have any time left to put the Vrits. That is a new word, but it's okay. This bouquet thing, and screen is not stuck. Open a mini window in the upper corner. How I can open YouTube, but YouTube does not give me picture in picture. Or yes, Maybe I can. I think Brave does allow something. I don't know. YouTube has a have a small player now. Ah, screen is not stuck. That is cool. Anyways, let's just like get this done with. It is already 11:30 and I have to go to college also today. You can hear a commotion. Okay. Uh, yep, Writs. We won't have any time to left to put the Writs up in the dining hall. Resolute in your quest. Resolute in your quest, you investigate. If only we hadn't switched to the new inventory management system right before Christmas, another elf exclaims. You ask what is going on. The elves in the kitchen explain the situation. Because of their complicated new inventory management system, they cannot figure out which of their ingredients are fresh and which are spoiled. When you ask how it works, they give you a copy of their database, your puzzle input. The database operates on ingredient IDs. It consists of a list of fresh ingredient IDs, blank, a list of fresh ingredient IDs, a blank line, and then a list of available ingredient IDs. Fresh, blank line, and the things that are available. The fresh IDs ranges are inclusive. 3 to 5 means 3, 4, and 5 are all fresh. The ranges can also overlap in any ingredient ID is fresh if it is in any range. The elves are trying to determine which of the available ingredient IDs are fresh. In this example, it is done as follows. Ingredient ID 1 is spoiled because it does not fall into any range. Okay. 5 is fresh, 8 is spoiled, 11 is fresh, 17 is fresh, and ingredient 32 is spoiled. In this example, 3 of the available ingredient IDs are fresh. Proceed the database file from the new inventory management system. How many of the available ingredient IDs are fresh? Yes. Screen is stuck again. Yeah, if a video is playing in the tab, then I can change to the tab, then a mini player can be played like in phone. In wait, phone, it does not happen in phone. We need to have YouTube Premium, I believe. I can start my own video. Yes. Narcissistic behavior. Shit, I'm not live, it seems. Yeah, it does not say that I am live. That is crazy. Yep. Shit. uh, yes, start, and uh, there does come a thing here. Screenshot cast. Wait, this is for share. Oh, El Pacino. I think it is this. Yes, let's go. Let's go. Yep. Now I can see myself. That is narcissistic behavior, but it only comes on the browser. That is also fine. I won't be able to see this while I'm on some other place. Cool. So that is shit. It is visible here also because this is browser window, I think. That is cool. Yo, hello. Today's question is easy, kind of. So, and we are doing OCaml. Like it is in the name. OCaml is crazy. Just saying. We have the data. Now we want what we want with that data after reading the file. First of all is, and yes, we also have this thing on the top right because this my screen keeps getting stuck. And yeah, so indication how to name if trimming a string is a thing. Shit. String dot trim. That is very beautiful. It removes all new lines, end line and stuff. Spaces from the ends. Cool. This thing returns a string which we can, I think, pass string dot trim. We cannot pass it. Okay, and I'm getting call, which I'll take later. The screen is still not stuck. That is cool. Here let data equal string dot trim data pool. Now the data is trim. We needed it to be trim because there is at the end of the file the end line character, or yeah, which we don't want. And then we can do trim end line data or in, and that is cool. This now works. That is cool. And I'm afraid for the second part. Part one. Okay, screen stuck. Cool. It would have been crazy if it played on other softwares as well. Would have been crazy. The crazy part is it is working here. Like that is kind of crazy, I think. Yes, this is also the browser. Not technically, this literally is also the browser, but this is like on the home page. So, and that is kind of crazy. We have trimmed our string, and what we need to do now is we need to have ranges. Hmm. 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 Shit. Wait a minute. I will be like right back in just a minute. The screen was stuck and I'm back. That is cool. This is very kind of irritating. I will have to fix this afterward. The screen getting stuck. And now, cool. Okay. What we need is we have all of these numbers. All these numbers we need to store, parse each line, or it would be cool if we can split this whole thing into two parts, into two different strings. Like this would be one string and the other part would be another string, and then we can handle them however we want. Okay, let's see how how to split a string in OCaml. Yes, let's go. Split on character. We do not want to split on character. It would be cool if we can split on two characters, because then we will be able to split on two new lines. New line here and then a new line here. And then we will get this as a single string and this as another string. Start library regular expression. Yes, str dot, we can load a new library using this thing. Let split it by white spaces equals, evaluate this whole expression and give the value of this whole expression to this thing. Okay, on the regular expression this, right? And this is how they are writing. Do we actually need to use the regular expression? Bounded split, delimiters, yes, delimiters. Let R1 equals split on character, single delimiter, single character delimiter. It is efficient and straightforward. Hmm. Hmm. Regular expression would be better, I guess, in our case, because we want to split at whenever we have two new line characters. That is cool. Or we read from two files. Shit, we have a single input file. Check Discord. I have shared my log and the best optimized code. Shit, the best optimized code ever to exist. Okay, we'll use regular expression like this and split by white spaces s. Okay, this is a function. Okay, yes, this is a function. This is a function. This is how we specify our function. This is not like value. This is a function. This function takes in s and returns after splitting. Okay. My string result. This result is a list of strings, that is, which is exactly what you want. Let's write the copying a function and then pasting it is not very manly thing to do. Split and new lines. Very concise function name equals let str. We also have to load the str library in utop. Load str.cma OCaml library. Okay. Dot cma. What is the syntax error? Load. Why is this a syntax error? In interactive mode or in you, we cannot use this. Shit. I think we need to have some kind of environment or something. Like in Python, we have uh, virtual environment. I think something similar we need here for us to load a library in OCaml, and then this thing. Shit, what is this? Library is the go-to choice. You need str library is the go-to choice. You need to link it during compilation using OCaml find camel c OCaml c output example, all of this example.ml. Hmm. Syntax error is crazy, by the way. Still, we can split using the normal split inbuilt split function on new lines. Yeah, let's do that without this fancy new thing. Let splitted equals string dot split on character. Do we see the function definition? Yes, we do see the function definition. Uh, Split on character is the list of all possibly empty substrings of S that are delimited by the sep. If S is empty, the result is the singleton list, which has only one element, singleton list. Right, and how do we call this? What is the order? First the delimiter, then the string. The delimiter is new line, the string is data. This type is okay, it is not stuck. I thought the screen is stuck, but no. Yes, OCaml. OCaml is difficult. You were right. OCaml is going to be very hard because it is an entirely different paradigm. Either you shouldn't have had this on the list or should have, or at least given a week. Yes, that would be the approach if I were to like actually for real learn this, but I'm not learning OCaml. I'm just getting this thing done in OCaml online. Yes, it is way too easy, but not with OCaml. If you are writing in OCaml for the first time, we just need to have a list like yes. My approach is first we will if this were C++, I would have this and these values in a pair where the first value is the starting and the second value is the ending point, and therefore I will have a lot of segments, and like then I would sort these according to their starting index and find the overlapped values and only have the starting and ending points. Or I think we don't even need to find the overlapping values. Yep. We don't need to optimize for time because the input is not much. We can literally like we can quite literally go line by line, like for each number here, go through each of the range and find, check, manually check for each range if this number is in this range or not. That will not be a lot of like bad. That will not be bad. Or best, I think, would be for each number, we would have to go not through this whole thing, but using binary search, we will be able to find out if there is some list which is some range which contains this number, and for it to be true we will take all of these and we will take all of these values as pairs. Like each value would be stored as a pair, and we will store all of these pairs as a list, and then we will sort the list according to the first number in ascending order and according to the second number in descending order. That is like ascending order for the first number makes sense, but if the first number for two lists are hmm, if the that is a nice point. That is a nice point. Yes, we will have to take the um what do you call it? Intersection of all of these fields, because there might be a case in which uh okay, I think first of all I should explain what I'm thinking about, and that is his interpretation. Do not judge him. Shit. We are not even learning. It is then what is the purpose of doing an OCaml? That defeats whole purpose. You could have copied and pasted the code in any line. No, I mean I'm not going deep in OCaml, but what I have seen till now is OCaml came out in 1996 or 98 or something, and there are everything in OCaml has a value, and we have variables which point to values in OCaml just like in Rust, and just like in Rust, OCaml also has shadowing, or we should say Rust just like in OCaml has shadowing. OCaml is the creator in this sense because OCaml came out before Rust, and variables, shit, screen got stuck, my bad. Variables by default are immutable, so that is also crazy. In for surface level, you'd need to know about functional programming, which Rust also uses. I mean, every language uses functional programming. It, there are functions in every language. That loop hasn't completed yet. Haskell is the creator. Shit, okay. Still running. Nope, nope. Shit, I guess I messed up at some point. I guess I won't be able to complete this just now in this stream because I have to go to college. That is also something I have to do, unfortunately, today. So yeah, the question we will be doing after the stream, after I come back from college, I will do another stream. But let's go as far as we can go for now. We have splitted the string, and functional programming is an entirely okay. I I might be wrong, but let me see. Uh, Python a functional programming language? I think it should be. Is a multi-paradigm programming language, meaning it supports programming styles, including functional programming. Most of the programming languages in English, languages functional. I think there is a case to be made between most programming languages in widespread use today are not primarily function, my bad. While functional programming concepts have increasingly become integrated into many mainstream languages, the dominant paradigm remains imperative and object oriented. My understanding of functional programming is we have a function and we call that function with some variables, and most of the languages seem to have this. Like, yes, most of the languages have functions in them. Yes, functional programming is an emphasis on stateless function which are composed together to perform a computation. Hmm. Functions exist in all languages. Yes, functional programming is an emphasis on stateless. Shit, okay, stateless function would mean uh, a pure function with no side effects, and it does not matter if you call a function with some variables, no matter when, you will always get the same output. Imperative programming also uses functions, but they tend to have a state and perform stateful steps to perform a computation. For example, I think, okay, that makes sense. That makes uh, hello.cpp, like if we had a function, let's say this returns an int and is, let's say, stateless function, and this takes in x and returns 2 into x. This function is stateless. That is cool. But there might be a stateful function that takes in some number and lets static z equals 1. Static in z is 1 and z plus plus and return x into z. This function is stateful. This has a variable z which is incrementing every time. And since there is this static word here, so every time the function is called, it gets the same value of z. Z is like global, kind of, throughout the whole run of the program. Or entire equals 0. There is no n here. And if you were to call a stateful function with I and cout, compile, and yo, let's go. We are getting updated values of z. Yep, we are getting updated values of z. But for our, if we were to change this from stateful to stateless, here we are, z is not getting updated. We are always multiplying x by 2. I think that is the point. I think. And the screen is stuck. Is it? Yes, it is stuck. Shit, it is stuck actually. Yes, this is what I was showing. Here, if this is state full, then value of z is updating, and each time, if we were to even like call this thing with a static value 1, like with the same value, we are getting different outputs. That is crazy. That is a stateful function. Calling a function once changes how it works or what the values with which it is working on. And for a stateless function, every time we call the function with the same value, we get the same output. I think that is what you were saying. Indicated in the input or output of the function, so it has a side effect. In simple examples of a stateful function, in wait, I think there was another comment there. A simple example of a stateful function or a function with side effects would be a function that prints you had it 2 and you get 4, but it is changing the state of the console. It is changing the state of the console, which means, okay, standard output is being changed. Okay, that is cool. This is not indicated in the input or output of the function, so it has a side effect. Okay, 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 something other than the input and the output of the function is happening. That is the side effect, yes. And state, okay, state would mean stateful could mean that how the function is working, and that is being changed, like in this here. This is stateful, or if this were printing something like this, now also it is stateful. Like two reasons. First is this is a side effect, and this is, I think we can also consider this a side effect, maybe. But yeah, this function is stateful. And you are saying that is a must in functional programming. Yo, let's go. So pure function is also part of functional programming. I think it is the defining part of functional programming, if I'm not wrong. And like, as I've been reading the comments. The most part of functional programming. Pure functions are a cornerstone of functional programming, and we widely consider one of its most important, if not the most important, concepts, while functional programming encompasses other significant ideas like immutability, higher order functions, functions which we can pass as parameters to other functions. That is cool. Recursion, pure functions prove the fundamental benefit that these other concepts so powerful. Okay, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. That does make sense. That is cool. And the screen is not stuck. That is also cool. Yeah, that is one of the core concepts. Though there are languages like Lisp which are functional, and Lisp has like just parentheses here and there everywhere. 10 pages of parentheses like Lisp, which are functional but allow you to write stateful functions if you want. It is just not the default. Wait, I misread. Though there are languages like Lisp which are functional but allow you to write stateful functions if you want. It is not the default. Okay. And we still consider Lisp a functional programming language. Okay. Also, recursion in functional programming are better because of tail call optimization. Okay. Hmm. Lol. Also, OCaml once had classes and stuff. Shit. Okay, shit. So I would assume from that statement that OCaml now does not have classes, and therefore, when we are doing this thing, string dot trim, this is more like this string thing is not an object or class. This is more like a namespace, I guess. So functional programming is part of imperative. In functional programming can't make sense now. Imperative, with some rules like immutability, data transformation, pure function, Hitler, higher order. Okay, that is cool. Functional programming, pure functions. But most of the languages do not have pure functions as a constraint or as a like must-have thing. They just have functions. But language having functions does not make that language a functional programming language. They must have pure functions as the default. But there are exceptions like Lisp, it turns out, which does not enforce pure functions, but you can write stateful functions if you want to. But Lisp is also considered a functional programming language, which makes functional programming language the like category of these languages more like debatable. Yeah, but there are also non-debatable languages like OCaml, which are functional, and Haskell, which are like purely functional. So that is cool. Going by that logic, imperative is just like OOP without objects and classes. Ah, okay, my mental state is getting overloaded. Earlier classes was used, but now everything is done as functional. That is cool. Can we combine object-oriented and pure functional? I think by definition it does not work, because whenever you call for an object, whenever you call some method on that object, that changes the state of the object. So I think we cannot combine these two. Lambda functions and such bias against functional programming since it was created. Shit. Guido von Rossum has some hate. OCaml is technically multi-paradigm. Okay, strongly typed also. Multi-paradigm, it is primarily functional programming a functional language, but easy to switch to other paradigms. Really, the defining characteristics of OCaml, in my opinion, IMO, International Math Quiz Olympiad, is how good the type system is, on which I cannot like comment anything because I have no idea about OCaml. I mean, that is what Rust trying to do. It feels like it's trying to type all paradigms at once. Okay, in Rust or in shit, there was a meme. In Go, we have, or I will use the same meme with Rust. In Rust, we have structures which have functions to them. The structures have values and functions, and whenever we call those functions, the values which the structure has, those changes. This is what Rust has, structures with functions. Structures with functions, but this is not object oriented. That is crazy. It has structures with functions, but not objects. Like that is technically what we are saying, but in spirit that is object oriented. Yep, it is now non-stuck. That is cool. OOP and functional programming solve the same problem of complexity differently. Makes sense. That is a very philosophical. Wait, is that Newton? I think it is Newton. Complexity differently. And shit, that is Newton with Newton's razor, lightning razor sword. Shit, that is actually Newton with the lightning razor sword. That is cool. Now the camera is not working. That is fine. The same problem of complexity differently. OOP encapsulates state and complexity. Encapsulation, yes, and functional programming aims to eliminate state and complexity so that unwanted side effects are not happening. Okay, you don't eliminate state, you just make it explicit in functional programming. Yes, yes, should that is also a nice way to look at it. Let's try to act like OP supports FP concepts like concepts, but work like imperative. Lol. That is a better way to put it. Okay, and that unfortunately would also be the end. I have to go to college, and we didn't do the question just yet. I will, like, when I'm back from college, we will do the question then. And yes, OCaml is difficult, and we will do this in OCaml. Like, yeah, if I do stream, try to first learn functional programming, then do. I will see how it goes, but yeah, I will solve this question in OCaml either today, tomorrow, or whenever, but I will, and most probably today only. So that would be it for today's stream, and thank you for being here.